discussing what entrepreneurship is about. And I'm very happy to be speaking to the students of Daleview College of Pharmacy. So before we get started, I just want to say that this is the next, 45 minutes or so is going to be a lot about talking about problems. And we'd love for everybody, whoever is on the session, if you have an idea or a thought, go ahead and share it, because that's how great entrepreneurs are made. They share their thoughts. Okay, great. Um, so, first, before anything else, an entrepreneur is someone who has identified a problem and has decided to solve it through a solution that they have built, right? The first thing about entrepreneurship is about solving a problem that exists for a certain set of people in the world. So there are multiple frameworks. There are different types of entrepreneurs who've used different types of frameworks to arrive at the right solution for a problem that they have identified. But all the great entrepreneurs have first spent a lot of time defining the right problem, or defining the problem correctly, rather. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard the saying that if you want to cut a tree in 4 hours, you spend 3 hours sharpening your axe, right? And sharpening the axe for an entrepreneur is first establishing what is the problem clearly that they are setting out to solve. Great. So today we're going to discuss one framework, which is called the design thinking framework. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of it, or you might have heard of it. If you are, maybe in the chat box, you can mention that you are aware of it. Anybody in the chat box, if possible, can say yes or no, or you can unmute as well and answer. Okay. All right. But anytime you feel like sharing something, please do feel free to unmute and answer. But before that, you should get to know who you're hearing entrepreneurship from. I have, like, ma'am has taken my profile and taken you through my profile very clearly, that I'm an IT engineer, and I've worked in different types of organizations, from startups to MNCs to NGOs, right? And one thing that has come across through all of these experiences, is that entrepreneurship is a great way to help build the ecosystem in India and to help build the economy in India. So that's why I've chosen to be an entrepreneur, apart and post my IT engineering and a bit of work experience, I have gone ahead and done my master's in management. All right, on to the main part. Now, we all have problems, right? In different ways, whether we are in Kanyakumari or in Jammu, we each have problems, and they could be in a different size, they could be in different shape, they could be in different form. But what I would like some of you who are on this webinar here, if you could share one problem that you face, especially maybe as students, right? Anyone can just raise your hand or unmute and share if that is possible. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take one problem that is consistent for all students, which is time management. I'm sure as students you have assignments and projects and internships and also your family life and your uh, health and so on. Everybody has issues managing time while they're taking care of all of this, right? So we're going to take that one problem of time management, and we're going to move forward with the framework. So the first step when of any of, say, the design thinking framework is to look around you and look at the problems that you yourself are experiencing first. So for me, MentorMind came through a challenge that I personally went through, and I even say Uber for up until date has come out because there was a problem that the founder was going through. If some of you have heard of the app Bumble, it was a challenge that the founder was going through, right? There are some of these amazing companies or startups, and they have all started with the founder themselves having had a story where they've been through that problem and so on. Great. So the first thing to always do is to list all of the problems. And you can start with asking your friends, asking yourself, asking the people around you within your community or your vicinity as to what are the challenges that they are facing. I've picked one, which is time management, but I'm sure there are several challenges. And these problems can be something as small as not being able to upload a document on your assignment portal, or it could be something as large as time management as well. But the first step is to list as many problems as you can. And when you do this, you will be speaking to a lot of people, and you will see that if you have spoken to 100 people, 20 people who are of the same type of people. For example, if you have spoken to your friends, you have spoken to your cousins who might all be of a particular age group, you might see that all of them have a similar problem, right? They might all have a similar challenge that might exist, and they become a specific group of people. So the first thing when you are listing out your problems is to identify a pattern of people and identify the group of people. So, for example, if you're talking about time management, you might be seeing that time management is an issue or a challenge or a problem for students who are in the age group of 20 to 22. That might be a pattern, and they then form the group of people, right? Or you might, as you're talking to your family and you see that they face a challenge in getting the health reports from any diagnostic test. If you see that as a challenge, then that they all might be they all might be early senior citizens who are in the age group of 60 to 70. So there will be certain patterns that bring a group of people together, and for those group of people this problem is common. So when you identify that group of people, you need to start conducting interviews, and these interviews have to be about understanding what do they care about, what is their daily life like, what are the things that affect their daily life. So these are questions that are not only about the problem, not only about do you as an individual have a problem or not, but more than that. So conduct in-depth interviews, understand fully the lives of the specific group of people who share the common problem, right? And always ask for personal stories when you are sitting. Let's take the example of uh, diagnostic tests being delivered to an age group of 60 to 70 senior citizens. They will tell you stories like, I had to wait in the heat for the auto, my legs were hurting. They're also going to tell you stories of how maybe there was a nurse who was very kind and helpful, and that made them feel very comfortable when they were doing certain type of tests. So you will get a lot of these personal stories, but the common problem would emerge from these personal stories more and more. So The first step is to empathize with the specific group of people for whom you've identified a common problem and speak to them about it in depth. Right. The next step is, once you get different versions of the problem, which you will get from these personal stories, it's to synthesize it into one problem statement. The more clear, articulate, and succinct your problem statement is, the better there is to solve it, a chance to solve it, right? So, how do you define the problem? In all the personal stories and interviews that you go through, you need to look for repeated actions, repeated things. So, for example, if you have spoken to 50 people who belong to the senior citizen age group of 60 to 70 years, and all of them have said that they are uncomfortable with how cold a machine is, then that's a repeated action, right? If all of them have said the transport has been difficult to get from their home to the diagnostic center, then that is a repeated action. So look for, say, these repeated actions, and how many people are really saying it. And once you do that, you will then look for a list of activities that generally a person goes through. So their doctor tells them, the first step is their doctor tells them you have to get XYZ test. Then they probably have already a preferred diagnostic center that they like to go to get that test. Then they might enlist the help of their sibling, their spouse, their children, grandchildren, or if they have full help at home, to go there and get that test done. And then, so there are, obviously there's a list of activities that um, they are trying to do. And when you are defining this problem, every problem has to point out the need that is arising from it. Now, I'm sure all of you know that every human has a certain basic set of needs, and this is we're referring to those needs as such. It is important to have, your if you look at your Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're not aware of it, no problem, I can share resources about it. But everybody has a certain set of needs, and we need to define and create a problem statement that brings out that need, right? So why are senior citizens from 60 to 70 doing these diagnostic tests? Because they want to know what exactly is happening with them. Why do they need to know what exactly is happening with them so that they can take care of it? Why is that required? To sustain their life and improve the quality of life, which is an important need, right? So when you're drafting a problem statement, here you will draft the problem statement. It could be that to improve or to help senior citizens of the age group of 60 to 70 to get an effortless delivery of their health reports. It can be something simple, but you have to bring out why that, this problem statement, how does it help a senior citizen? So a better problem statement would be to improve the quality of life of senior citizens in order to through a seamless delivery of health reports, right? So that's a problem statement. Obviously there's a lot more that you can do, and the simpler it is, the stronger a problem statement is. So I'm moving forward. So your step 3 is, once you identify all of your you've done your interviews, you've spoken to a lot of people, you've identified what are the repeated actions and steps, and you have written down a problem statement. Now's the time to find ideas and solutions. um, I'm sure you've heard this, that there's no such thing as a silly question, there's also no such thing as a silly idea, right? There are so many entrepreneurs who have built so many companies with ideas that maybe a lot of people thought were very silly. So the first thing is, whatever comes to your mind, whatever you are seeing in your environment, if it's an idea that could solve the problem statement or contribute to the solution of the problem statement, you can put it down on a big whiteboard or a big blackboard, right? We've all done it. I'm sure you've heard of stories where entrepreneurs have written it on the back of a napkin, but that's also something that you can do. But ideate as much as possible and don't say no to any idea. You then, based off of your research that you've done with your through your interviews, you also need to start doing a lot of secondary research. uh, Read a lot about the industry, read a lot about what are the current companies, whether they are startups or mncs or conglomerates, what are they exactly doing in this space. Understand the industry and finally pick one or two ideas that you feel is a good one to explore based on obviously your research, your primary and secondary research. And then hash out the idea and start discussing it with different people. You tell them your problem statement, you say, hey, this is what I'm thinking might be helpful, what do you think about it? So ask them, and then you will get a lot of opinions, but don't take all of them, right? Then go back to the drawing board and start detailing your idea. The first thing is, what are the customer actions or that would happen in your idea? So for example, if the problem statement that we've defined is to improve the quality of life of senior citizens through a seamless, delivery health diagnostic, health report delivery system, then, and if your app that you've identified is a simple telecalling service, right, which will help a senior citizen know when their reports are ready, which will help coordinate with the diagnostic center. Or if your idea is to build an app that is very simple for the senior citizens to use, but at the same time, their support people also to use, for example, a spouse or siblings or children or grandchildren, etc. If app is your idea, then what are the actions that the customer will have to perform? Okay, they'll have to download an app, they will have to open the app. When they open the app, they will have to register. What do they have to do when they're registering? Once they register, what is it that they will see? What do they need to click? What, and so on and so forth. So one of the biggest points of information that will help you is the list of activities that you had identified in step 2, right? When you looked at what are all the activities that the customer is doing, the customer here would be your target audience, who is your specific group of people. Then looking at those actions, you can identify the actions for your idea or your solution. Then the second question that you will have to answer when you're detailing your idea is, what pain points exactly does it solve? Does your idea solve? If it's an app, it solves the pain point of not having to go to a diagnostic center and pick up reports. Now, I know all of them WhatsApp as well, but I'm just giving you an example, right? If your app, if your telecalling service is this, if is the idea you're going with, then it allows for people to know information without having to follow up for certain reports. And that's a pain point that you're solving. So detail out what are the pain points that does the solution actually solve. And then lastly, look at what gains will the customer actually have. So these gains are, how does it improve their life, right? For one, they will spend a lot less time going from their home to the diagnostic center multiple rounds, right? So they will also have access to information, which will then help them go back to their doctor faster. So that faster, or if the customer has been able to, your app has been able to help reduce the amount of time for the customer, that is a customer gain, right? um, and basically what answering these three questions are going to do is they're going to hash out very clearly, this is my idea, this is what the person who's going to use my idea has to do in terms of activities, this is how it will remove certain pain points, and this is how it will help them gain certain things, right? So that is basically what detailing your idea would entail. Your next step, which is step 4, is prototyping. So, here, what you need to do is to make the first example of your idea. Now, if this is an app, it can be, you don't have to go and develop an app. No, you can also use several designing tools that are free on the platform, like Canva, and just design how your app is going to look screen by screen, right? If it's a telecalling service, just put down the process flow, and maybe make one sample like you have one sample set of people who you can telecall and help, and get them to understand what your idea is. So basically make a prototype. Very simple. If you are going to other, say, industries, if you were in the FMCG industry and your idea and your pain point is in the FMCG industry, then your prototype would actually be your product. It would actually be the item that people are going to consume, or so on. So make a prototype. It can be physical or digital, but make an example, and this example should be able to be used or viewed by other individuals, right? And step 5 is testing. So you've done your research through primary and secondary resources, you've arrived at a problem statement, you've identified potential solution, that is your idea, and you have built a prototype. After detailing it out, you then go ahead, take the prototype and test it out in the market. In the market means go to your specific group of people, get them to sample your prototype, view your prototype, and ask them a lot of questions and get feedback. So if you make your app initially, the idea, and you go and show it to a few senior citizens, when I say make your app, you design it on a document and say this is how it's going to look. You can get their feedback and say, is this comfortable for you, are these colors working for you, is this confusing to understand where to do, what to do, etc. So you can do that. But there are also, if you want to build digital products, there are lots of resources for free online that allow you to build a prototype which actually can be interacted with, right? So yes, step 5 is finally taking the test. So we essentially have 5 steps in this design thinking process. You first empathize, you define the problem statement, you ideate, prototype, and lastly test, right? So I'm just going to take a pause, and if anybody has any questions, you can share, unmute, and ask. Okay. So I'm going to move forward, taking Uber's example. So when Uber started out, and there were the two founders had basically gone for a meeting, and they weren't able to find cabs. And they had to wait for a long time. And whenever they did find a cab, eventually they paid a very high fare. So these were the first three things that they identified in, for people who, the group of people that they were looking for was anyone who needed a cab to reach somewhere on time, right? Then they very simply defined the problem statement saying, hail a luxury car from your phone. Now, keep in mind, when Uber started, it was not going to be an app. It became an app. but it was about the problem or that they wanted to solve was hailing a luxury car from your phone. So the idea that they arrived at was actually to get limos from different people who own them, and on a timeshare basis rent it out to people who need it, right? So it's actually a luxury car. Now, I want you to picture how this was when it began. And they basically hired limos for a given period of time, and they would rent it out to people for that given period of time, so that on a time sharing basis, the same asset, which is one luxury car, could be used. So, what was their prototype like? They basically wanted to do on demand car service, and this was going to be booked through an iPhone or an SMS. So, they had to SMS or send an iMessage saying, I am here, I need the car from here to here, right? And because by then GPS was there, they would then send an elite car, right, with good drivers, and they would pick those individuals up and drop them at their destination for that given period of time. So what was their test like? So this is, by the way, through I there's no app built yet, back in 2010. But the first test run took place, they had 3 cars. It took place in New York, and they had tried it out with those 3 areas within New York as well, and had a few people using the system. So cut to what it is today. Uber is an app where you even have Uber Moto, like a bicycle, and that takes you from one place to another place in any corner of the country, right? So look at how where they started and where they are now. And with that, I'd just like to tell you that it's all about wanting to solve a problem. First, solve a problem for a group of people. And if it really alleviates their pain points and helps them gain certain things in terms of value, then you as an entrepreneur are going to be very, very successful, and your idea will eventually evolve, right? So on that note, there are two models or frameworks that I would suggest anyone to explore. The first is called a value proposition canvas. Value proposition is nothing but what is the one core value that you are providing to your customers, for which in return they are, giving them a part of their money. So customer pain, it helps you identify the customer pain points. So definitely look up value proposition canvas, and also look up the business model canvas. This will help you, say, once you finish your design thinking framework, you understand your prototype, you test it out, you build out your value proposition canvas. It's nothing but a set of questions you have to answer. Then you start defining your business, and that is where you will use a business model canvas, which helps you detail out all aspects of your business. So if you need any help, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. But these are two resources that I would like to finally leave you with. Great. So on that note, I'm happy to take any questions that any students have. So, the first step to become a young entrepreneur is very simply to identify a problem. Once you identify that and go through the design thinking process for yourself, you will arrive at a stage where you would want to here yeah you will arrive at a stage where you would want to build this out. Then there are several incubators in the country. Now these incubators, for example, IIM Bangalore has an incubator. There are lots of incubators in the country that will help you build out your business in the beginning stages. So even the for example, in Telangana we have T Hub. I'm sure there are lots like that all across the country. You can also look at the Startup India website for any support for young entrepreneurs. There are lots of these programs, and they're all free. It's a lot about applying and just going through the interview process. It's a very simple process. But the first step is, once you feel you have done your research and identified your problem and created a basic prototype, you can always apply to these incubators and they can help you take off. That would be the first step. I hope that answers your question. What inspired me? Thank you for sharing that question. One of the things was that as MentorMind is basically about helping college students um, find the skills that they require before they start their careers. So it came from my personal story, and me and my other co-founders, were four of us. We all went through college, and we did a lot of things. We did internships and projects, and volunteered with like a lot of organizations, and then we basically built our skills. But we had to really look for a lot of this because it wasn't easy to find them. And that's when we thought, if it's not easy to find them, we're not the only students who might be going through that. And hence we thought we should help the rest of the students possible. So just the excitement of solving a problem and having co-founders who really wanted to solve, really like bring that problem alive, is one of the reasons why I've become an entrepreneur.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has a question with any part of, even if there's yes,
Ma'am,
yes.
how can we help introverts to come forward and express their problems?
I love that question. Um, from my own experience, there are two things. Introverts have their own channels of expressing themselves. It could be through writing, it could be through, having. Um, Probably listening to reading a lot of books and then sharing opinions in spaces or associations that they're comfortable with. And the first step is to start with that, right? You find a channel or a medium that enables you to express yourself and makes you feel comfortable expressing yourself. And second is, every entrepreneur will have a set of challenges personally, right? And it's the first, once you find a problem and you're looking at a prototype, try and find co-founders who complement your strengths and weaknesses, and whose strengths and weaknesses you complement as well. And these, it could be an extrovert who might not be very good at, say, analyzing data, and then if as an introvert you are very good at analyzing data, then that's complementary skill sets, right? So for the once you identify these individuals, um, together, bouncing off of each other, you can express yourself. So these are two ways that, from my personal experience, I've seen introverts really come out and talk about their opinions and views. And I also feel that introverts have a very good advantage, because they observe immensely. And when they do make a point in any meeting or conversation, um, it is heard very, very well, because everyone knows that they're making that point because they have observed and thought things through. So always build your do every single day work on building your confidence. And we have done, as an entrepreneur myself, I've done several sessions. I was very underconfident when I started it out. I wasn't sure how to speak. I would write down notes before I would have before I would have to have any meeting or any session, as a part of my journey. And just going and trying it out and being okay with failing has really kind of helped me build my confidence as well. And lastly, have a group of cheerleaders, uh, people who you want to bounce ideas off, and you want to do certain mock sessions with, practice basically with these group of your cheerleaders, so you can also build your confidence. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
Great.
Ma'am,
Yes.
how to differentiate that whether the idea we take is right or wrong?
Sorry, I'm not able to hear that. Could you repeat it, please?
How to differentiate that whether the idea we take is right or wrong?
That's a great question. So, in this process, the design thinking process, and the two resources that I mentioned at the end, right, which is these two, you will realize whether or not your idea is going to actually help a large group of customers or not. So, there are two things in the statement that I have made that I want you to make note of. One is it going to help your customer exactly understand, what that customer's pain points are, and what part of it is actually working to help with a problem statement that they have. And through your design thinking framework, through talking to a lot of people, you will, and testing it out constantly, you will learn this, right? um, so that is your first thing that I wanted you to pay attention to. The second thing that I wanted you to pay attention to was a large number of customers. Now you can have the best product and the best solution, right? But if, let's say, only a few hundred people it's going to benefit, then you might have to rethink your solution and your problem statement. But if it's going to benefit a larger customer base, that is a larger group of people who will potentially become your customers, then that's a good problem to work on. It's a good solution to work on, and it's a good thing to scale, right? So in the initial few days, speak to as many people as possible about your ideas and your thoughts. Don't necessarily get demotivated by if people say no, this is not a good idea. It's always important to build a small prototype and test it out. So when you actually test out the prototype that you have, you learn a lot from your market. You learn a lot from your customers. You learn a lot about their pain points and if your solution is helping. So definitely make sure that you speak to a lot of people in this process, which is empathize and problem statement. But definitely do step 4 and step 5 and see if it's helping them with their pain points, and if there are a large number of people for whom this pain point exists. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else? Anyone else has any other questions?
No, ma'am, no other doubts.
Okay, great. I hope this has been helpful in some little way. If you have more questions or you just want to understand, if you have an idea that you want to talk about and say, I want to build a solution on this, I want to be an entrepreneur, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to have a conversation anytime. Challenges faced by me. Thank you for that question. Um, I think there are so many. I'm going to focus on three. The first one is getting people to take your idea seriously. So when we started thinking about MentorMind, we were very young. We actually started thinking about it when we were 23, and we had to talk to a lot of people. We were in the field of education, and MentorMind is an ed tech platform. So a lot of people didn't really take us very seriously because they said, "You're very young. How would you probably figure this out?" So what we then went ahead and did was we built a lot of research. We really went out and spoke to a lot of industry experts, spoke to a lot of students, uh, almost 200 to 250 people alone, right? And that really helped strengthen our ideas, strengthen our the conviction that the problem that we're solving is real. So getting people to take you seriously as a younger entrepreneur is something everybody does, but I'm talking about like 7 8 years ago. What I want to really say that now the ecosystem is thriving. The entrepreneurship ecosystem in India, especially, has opened up so much, and it is encouraging college students as much as possible to think of entrepreneurship as a career. And there are so many courses out there, there are so many incubators out there that really want more entrepreneurs in India. So I'm really happy to see that that if you're a young entrepreneur in college today, you will have a lot of support from the Indian ecosystem itself. So definitely make use of those resources, and never to worry in terms if you ever feel like it's not being taken seriously. The second challenge that I faced was also with getting people to understand the problem that we are solving and the solution that we're solving. Was basically, how do we communicate this? Every startup is like a business, yes, but it's also a baby for like the entrepreneur, right? They built it, they nurtured it, they want to take care of it, they want to see it grow. And so they also sometimes, as entrepreneurs, we also sometimes don't see the flaws as much. So one of the challenges was, but I'm communicating this, why aren't people understanding that it's important? So constantly checking myself, constantly like learning from what people are saying, picking up the right points, has always been is always going to be a challenge as to whose feedback do you listen to, whose feedback do you take not so seriously. Kind of distinguishing that, and then making the product better, making the company better, making the startup better. That's an ongoing process. Every day you will hear something new, learn something new. And basically listening to your customers is then most important, because your problem that you're solving is for them, and your solution exists because of them. So yes, just kind of learning how to communicate and then learn from that feedback has been a very interesting challenge that we go through every day. And lastly, it's a startup, looks very glorious and very glamorous sometimes, especially with some of these big startups, like that are doing so well in terms of valuation. But the first few years of struggle is very, very hard. You have to be very comfortable with uncertainty. You have to be very comfortable with the amount of risk you have taken as an individual. And uh, that is every day. There are going to be a lot of low days. So that has been a clear challenge, to get used to the uncertainty and to be okay with the uncertainty was a challenge. But I can say that it was worth it. So yes, these are challenges that I still face, specifically, but they come up in newer ways, that's all. Oh, absolutely. I actually just attended a program which was conducted by Goldman Sachs with the NSR cell, which is the incubation entrepreneurship wing of IIM Bangalore. And it was for women entrepreneurs. They have a 10K women entrepreneur program. As women, I'm going to tell you, it's very easy for someone to speak over you in a meeting. It is very easy for people to take a point that you are making and make it sound like it's their own. It's very easy to, for people to think you're emotional and think you might not know business, so you might not know finance. All of that is a reality. It exists, especially more so in certain sectors that are filled with bureaucracy. But one thing you must always, always remember as an entrepreneur, especially as a woman in this field, is that nobody knows your business better than you. Obviously, you will work hard and you will make sure that you do your best every day. But no one, including your co-founders, should ever make you feel that you don't know your business well enough. Because as long as you uh, know your business inside and out, and as long as you have the right intent, nothing can stop you. No amount of people with experience can come, and you will have low days. They might demotivate you for a day or two, but don't ever forget that you have built this by yourself, and you have worked with this problem and this startup day in and day out. So just remember that one thing, that nobody can take this away, this experience or this learning of having built a company, or even like started up, even something as simple as just started up and tested out. No one can take away your experience, and always remember that. And I've personally found some very amazing women in my life who I have been able to share when I feel low. So, as women, we must support each other, always find opportunities for one another, and that's how we're all going to be okay. There are a lot of programs out there now recognizing that women entrepreneurs are going to be a formidable force. So, I'm hoping a lot more of you would join that and make this a better place for the next generation. So, on that note, I would like to ask all of you, how many of you are considering becoming an entrepreneur? Great. Very happy to hear that. So anybody else? Any other questions?
Ma'am, as an independent women entrepreneur, how to overcome the problems by society?
The first step is to identify which problem you really want to solve. And second is once you go through this process that we talked about today, where you identify the exact problem and you look at what is the idea you want to do, find one or two other people who you trust with your life to you know make this um, problem and the solution that you want a reality. Find the uh, trustworthy stakeholders. For example, if it's about women employment, there are a lot of government based schemes, there are a lot of women entrepreneurs, there are a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses that are focused on helping women get better employment, women get paid better, women get educated better. So the first step for everything as an entrepreneur is to find the problem and find the right solution. But as a woman, as an individual, it is very important to know who your cheerleaders are. When I say cheerleaders, it could be a sibling, a cousin, a parent, a friend, somebody who you trust, and someone who uplifts you and who tells you and talks to you about your strengths and your weaknesses. A true friend in every way. They are very, very important. So with that, you will consistently work with these cheerleaders or your group of friends. Do well. Whatever you choose to do very, very well. If you are studying, do very well in that. Excelling at something, whatever you choose to do, um, excelling at it is going to be the strength to get a lot more people involved, and meet and be able to talk to a lot of people in different fields of life. And you will realize that even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur today, you will find different organizations that are going to help, that are trying to help certain problems that are faced by women. And if you relate to that organization, then you can join that organization, right? But always remember that as women, you have so much strength and so much compassion to give to the world, and nobody in the world should ever diminish that. So always remember that no matter what, that you have strength in you to overcome everything. That's literally how we are made as women as well. So I hope that answers your question. I know I gave 2 3 ideas, but if you want to talk about any particular problem in the society, please let me know, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great. So on this note, you can please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me under Megha Gajjala. MentorMind, if it's not being, you're not able to find, and drop me a message, and we can communicate.
Ambition is the path to success. Persistence is the vehicle you arrive in. Thank you, ma'am, for your valuable talk. You conveyed your points legibly. It was a motivational speech and it inspires us a lot. Surely it will be a worthwhile talk for us.
Now I invite Ms. Meenu Srikumar, lecturer, the Delhi College of Pharmacy and Research Center, for giving vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to one and all. It's my pleasure to introduce myself. Well, I am Meenu Srikumar, lecturer, Department of Pharmaceutics. It's a matter of pride for me that I am proposing a vote of thanks for this occasion. On behalf of Institution Innovation Council, first of all, spread my most sincere thanks to Lord God. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Deena Das Madam, Chairman, the Delhi College of Pharmacy and Research Center for the support and guidance. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to extend my greatly heartily vote of thanks to Miss Megha Gajjala, COO and co-founder of MentorMind, who gave her valuable time from his busy schedule to grace this function. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank Dr. Shaiju David Alfie, CEO and Managing Director of Delhi College of Pharmacy and Research Center for the support and motivation. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to thank our Vice Principal, Dr. Sinach Madam, for the great support and coordination. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank all the IAC members who work hard to make this program successful. Thank you all. Next, I would like to thank all the teaching and non-teaching staffs for helping us to make this event a great grand success. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants for spending the time to be with us today. I am thankful to the management for the endless support and guidance. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. We hope that it was an information session for all of you. Once again, thanks to the hard work that all have done IAC coordinators, teachers, organizers, and students to make this possible, and what you witnessed was really their effort and hard work. Now, we can end up this section with National Anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जाहे तव शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone. And it is really nice to see the students as well. Good luck. And I hope you have a great day. I know you'll have a lot ahead. And I hope some of you choose to become entrepreneurs in the future. Take care. Good luck. Thank you.